Welcome to the Nikki Jensen Show. I'm your host, Nikki Jensen. Today, I have an unbelievable show for you. It is with my dear friends, Melissa and Derek Geppert. They both live in Wisconsin. They've been my friends for a long time now. And it was in 2016 that their world changed and it turned upside down. Derek was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease, causing him to have massive strokes. And just 3 months after Derek's first stroke, Melissa was diagnosed with leukemia, both with 3 young children. I want you to listen to their story because I'm hoping, and my prayer for this show is that it will compel you to help this couple financially and to support this couple in a time of need. So here is Derek and Melissa's story.
So it was February 8th, 2016, and Derek was at work. And I normally would call him at night to just say goodnight, let the kids say goodnight, just kind of find out how his day went. And I couldn't get a hold of him, which was nothing surprising because they could be on a run or in the middle of dinner. So there could have been, 100 different reasons why he didn't answer. Maybe about an hour later, though, I got a random text message with the letter Y. And I thought, well, that's weird. He must be back from the call, but didn't call me. So I tried calling him again, and he answered, and he was just a little off, not too crazy, real quiet, had a hard time kind of keeping up with conversation. And I asked him if he was feeling okay because I could tell that something was wrong, but I could tell he also didn't want to let me know what it was. He was trying to keep up this tough exterior of something not being too wrong. So I tried asking him the basic questions that I normally do, like, what did you have for dinner? Who are you working with? Where are you working? And he couldn't answer anything that I asked him, which was super strange. So automatically I went to, he must really just be joking around with me. He's a jokester, as you know. He loves being, pranking people and being funny. But it didn't take me long to realize that it was more than just that. So I tried to get him to tell me who he was working with and where he was working, and he couldn't. He kept repeating himself and just telling me he was tired and he just wanted to go to sleep and he couldn't wait to come home. He told me he was going to come home and rake the leaves and he was going to paint the girls' nails, which it was February, so we weren't raking leaves. And he did paint the girls' nails occasionally, but nothing that he would have ever enlightened me about ahead of time.
Right.
So I was a little concerned. He has this calendar that he keeps track of all of his shifts. And so I told him, go get your calendar. I need you to read me the password. They had a system that they used to kind of keep track of their trades and their overtime. And it would show me where he was working. It clocked them in essence. So he went and got his calendar and he could not read me his password. The letters were all mixed up and the numbers were all jumbled. And he tried 4 different times and I knew something was really wrong, but I didn't know where he was working because he was on a trade. Mm-hmm. So it took me about an hour to track him down with the help of a couple other firefighters. We finally figured out where it was that he was working. And it seemed from their perspective that he was just not feeling well. And so they were going to let him leave the station to come home. And I said, no, keep him there. I'm going to come and get him. I just didn't feel like he should be driving if he was that unwell to not be at work. So he was working about 35 minutes away from home. So it took me a little bit to get to him. But by the time I got to him, I knew exactly, he needed to go to the hospital. Something was really wrong. While we were in the car driving, I had him squeeze my hand, stick out his tongue, smile. In my head, I kept telling myself, you're crazy for thinking that he's having a stroke, but something's definitely wrong. He called me mom in the car. And that to me was the tipping point. Something you could just tell in his mind something wasn't right. So we were just thankfully, we were right by the hospital. I just, swung off the freeway and I said, I'm going to just take you in and just get you checked out and make sure nothing's wrong. And we got to the hospital, and the words, I think my husband is having a stroke, left my mouth. I was like, they are going to think I'm an absolute nutcase. But it was like a scene from Grey's Anatomy where all of a sudden everybody's like racing around and whisked him off. And I was standing there by myself holding his station jacket, just like looking around like, holy crap, that just happened. Like they just whisked my husband away because there was really something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And there were like papers everywhere and wires everywhere. It was like out of a scene of a movie. I won't ever forget that. And the doctor came back in and he looked at me and he said, I'm really sorry. Your husband has had a stroke and there's nothing that we can do about it. And so my initial instinct was, oh my God, he's going to die. And he said, well, I don't think he's going to die, but we don't know why he had a stroke. So
at what age again?
He was 35. He had just turned 35 the month
Which is
before.
not common.
Not at all. Not at all. It's more common than we want to believe.
Is it?
Really? Yeah. There are some pretty staggering statistics, but somebody like Derek, he was very fit. He was a firefighter, so he got plenty of exercise, not a lot of sleep, but he ate healthy. His labs were good. He didn't have heart problems. He didn't have high cholesterol. His blood pressure was perfect. Seemingly the big picture looked like this was a fluke, but I wouldn't let that rest because I didn't feel that the doctors were taking it seriously enough. Mm-hmm. He took a few days to kind of come out of it. He wasn't comatose. If they really worked on it, they could get him to wake up for the neuro checks, but it wasn't until day 4 that he actually like snapped out of it and woke up. So,
and was he the same at that point?
He was the same in a sense, but his speech was very, very impacted from that first stroke. Everything else was pretty normal. His strength was very normal. They didn't even have him do physical therapy. The biggest thing was his speech. Had a really hard time communicating with us, and his words would get very jumbled. It took no time though for us to kind of figure out a system on how to communicate between the two of us so that I could kind of translate what it was that he was trying to get across.
And that's stroke number 1.
That was stroke number 1. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he was in the hospital for 10 days and that included some inpatient rehab just to make sure he was stable enough to go home, which he was.
Yeah.
We just had to work outpatient on speech. And he was doing that. It was crazy. He could not tell me what a zucchini was, but he could tell me the dosage of Narcan in the back of an ambulance. And it was just proof to the fact that our brains are so vast and you just don't know what it's going to specifically affect when someone has an injury to their brain like Derek did.
You get some news like that and you know that it's going to change your life forever.
It did. Absolutely.
And at that point it absolutely changed your life. That was a pivotal day.
It was. Yeah.
Why don't you share the news?
That was one of
couple months. How many months later after the first stroke? After his first stroke?
Just a little less than 3 months. So it's May 1st.
You're already going through this fiery hell with dealing with this potentially new lifestyle that you're going to have to live with, and everything's uncertain in your life.
Right. And we had gone to Mayo Clinic because I didn't care for the way the doctors just left it hanging unopened. They weren't really overly concerned about what had happened and why he had a stroke. And back to my instinct, my gut told me that we were missing something.
Yeah.
And I would have doctors say, well, we're going to do this test and this test and this test, and then they wouldn't. And I was getting very frustrated with that. We were getting nowhere. We had no answers. And so I took it upon myself to contact Mayo Clinic to take him up there and get some answers and maybe get a diagnosis. Not that you ever want a diagnosis, but I wanted to know why he had a stroke at 35 for seemingly no reason. So Mayo Clinic was amazing. They admitted Derek and they admitted him so that they could run tests more thoroughly quickly, because when you are admitted into the hospital, you have those tests available to you around the clock versus being in the clinic and abiding by clinic hours.
Right.
So I was staying at a hotel while they were working all Derek's tests up, and I just started feeling ill. I kind of felt like I was coming down with the flu. I was achy. I was tired. Um, I just was not feeling myself. It was probably the most exhausted. Exhausted wasn't even an appropriate word for the level of failure my body felt under. It took me 5 hours to get up, shower, and get dressed. And it's because I kept falling asleep doing those tasks. I fell asleep in the shower. I fell asleep sitting on the toilet trying to get dressed. I walked, 5 feet and sat down in a chair because I couldn't get back to the bed. It was just like that was the level of exhaustion I was feeling.
And what was going through your head when that was happening to you?
I can't believe I let myself get so stressed out that this is what's happening. I just really thought it was stress from dealing with Derek. And we were at Mayo without the kids. So I felt at that moment, it was like my body finally taking a break. Like, you need to rest. You need to take care of yourself for this moment. But it was that afternoon that I called him and I said, I think I might be coming down with the flu. I'm going to go to the ER and just get some fluids. And so that's what I did. They let him come down to the ER and sit with me. Obviously, it's an emergency room, and I was not considered an emergency at that moment. So we sat in the waiting room for some time. And, thankfully, they allowed him to come down there and sit with me. And so they gave me some fluids, and I perked up. I felt a little bit better. They did a quick chest x-ray to make sure I didn't have, pneumonia or anything like that, which I didn't. And then they just ran a quick panel of blood work and sent me home. And that was about 3 a.m. I had gone back to the hotel, and at 6 o'clock, they called me and they said, you need to come back. And I laughed and I said, I told you guys how tired I was. I'm going to go back to sleep and I'll come back in when I'm, awake and feeling a little bit better. And at 8 o'clock, they called again and they said, we are waiting for you. You need to come back. And I said, I will when I'm done sleeping because I was just so tired. And at 10 o'clock, they called back and they said, what hotel are you staying at? We are going to send a car. I thought, okay, you win. I'll come back in.
Wow.
So I got back to the emergency room, and Derek and his doctor that was caring for him up on his floor were waiting for me, as well as a team of doctors. And the doctor came in and he looked at me and he said, I know you're here for your husband, but your lab work came back abnormal. You have cancer.
Oh, Jesus.
We thought, that can't be right. They had somebody else's lab work, and this is all a big mess, or they have to do other tests. There's no way that they could test me for the flu and find out that I have cancer. What the hell kind of cancer is this? So the doctor came back in, and so I said to him, I said, so what other tests do we need to run to rule this out? Because there's no way I have cancer. And he said, no, you do have cancer. You have leukemia, so it shows up in your blood. And at that moment, the very first thing I was worried about was I hate throwing up, and I did not want to throw up because it's like the world's worst thing to me is having to puke all the time. So I know it's stupid, right? It's like that was my initial thought was I hate puking. And as my brain started to wrap around the fact that this was real, and Derek was going back to the wing of the hospital where he was going to continue to get tested and possibly still we were waiting for a diagnosis. They were taking me by an ambulance to another clinic because their cancer hospital is on a separate campus.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to be separated, which was really hard for me. I just, the thought of not being able to be there with him and try to help the doctors and, find out what's going on with him was devastating to me.
Yeah.
It had nothing to even do with the fact that I was, literally dying. So they took me to the cancer hospital and admitted me and started blood transfusions right away because I was hemorrhaging, and my blood levels were so low that I was very, very close to dying.
When you've gone through so much bad, there's some good that pokes its face out. So can you share some of the good that has come?
Well,
out
there's
of
a
such,
lot of good. I I don't think either one of us have really sat and wallowed in self-pity in this situation. I don't think that that's productive. Now,
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, we have days. There are definitely days where I have to drag my butt out of bed because I don't want to do what I have to do.
Yeah.
But typically that's not a regular day for us. A regular day for us is fighting back. It is trying to find the the part of the journey in this that's beautiful. Um, I have always been a very firm believer that no matter what you're going through, there is always something good that's going to come out of it, and that you always have something to be thankful for.
Mhm.
Um, in our beginning part of our journey, it was watching the community that rose around us.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't realize that you have made impacts on people in a way that you do until you have something like this happen.
Yeah.
We realized our small little world wasn't so small. And the amount of people that rose to the occasion to, you know, give my kids a hug at school or to stop by the hospital to just sit with me. There, the fire department, the nurses laughed and said they should have had a revolving door put on Derek's hospital room because we literally had guys coming in at all hours of the night. They would drop off a patient in the emergency room and run upstairs real quick just to make sure I didn't need anything in
Wow.
between a call. Like they dropped by on Saturday night and brought us pizza because that's what every station in the city does.
Mhm.
We had random people just stopping by our house, dropping off meals and um, small little gifts for the kids just to make them realize they're not being forgotten.
Mhm.
It's just the outpouring of love and support that you get that you don't realize that you need.
Mhm.
And I usually have a pretty hard time asking for help and saying that there's something that I need, and I didn't really feel like I ever actually had to ask because so many people were just willing to help, and it was very overwhelming in the amount of generosity we received.
Yeah.
So many different
Well,
ways.
it's only your karma because
Well, thank
you,
you.
from when you were little, I'm sure, have been doing the same thing. And can I just give a little bit of a background to both of you, really? But as I know, Derek and Melissa, so Derek is extremely funny and always made us laugh. I remember being in that big house in North Carolina, and he was drunk as a skunk, and he's coming to the door, and he's like, "Is Melissa here?" And I was like, "Girl, you do not have a husband tonight to help you with those kids." And she was like, "Yeah, I know." Because Derek, let me tell you, if anyone was going to give someone Father of the Year or Husband of the Year, it was Derek. Everyone was jealous of Melissa because she has this amazing husband who really supported her and just is always there. And the strength of your love is so, it can make people jealous, really. The strength of your love. And you guys have been together since when? You're 20?
We were 18 when we
18.
met.
Yeah, 18 when you met, like 20 when you got married or something. It's
Yeah.
just this love story that is, it's unforgettable. You both
Thank you.
are unbelievable human beings, and it's your karma that the community gets together and provides for you
Thank you.
and gives back, because that's all you guys do is just give.
Right.
And so it's just, you're full of wisdom and your impeccable love for each other. And when I feel, honestly, Derek, when you're going through all of this, it's like Melissa's love keeps you alive, kept you alive. Honestly.
I hope so.
And Derek, just the way that you are a father, the way that you're a husband is just, my heart is just pouring out for just, you're just the most incredible human being. And Melissa, you're the most incredible human being. And the planet is better with both of you on it.
Well, obviously somebody believes that because we're both
Yeah.
here.
You both are still here because you have the journey, you have a story, and you have so many more lives to touch. And this is just the beginning. This is just
I believe
beginning.
that. I think something beautiful is coming out of our story. This journey is ours for a reason.
Yeah.
We don't deny that. After Derek had, the second onset of strokes, it was real touch and go for a while, and the doctors didn't believe that he was going to survive that. And
Right.
I refused to believe that. I refused to believe that that's how our story was going to end.
Yeah.
We assume that our husbands are strong and tough and, indestructible, and then life brings them down to their knees for a moment, and they don't want to ask for help either, and rightfully
Right.
so as a wife, it was very much my responsibility, my duty, my honor as his wife to be able to fight that for him.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did.
So tell me about this alternative method treatment that you
So
have.
after having 5 strokes, there are a lot of doctors who will look at you and they will say, it is what it is. And I laugh because I look at that as a challenge.
You just go, I
Like,
call your bullshit.
Yeah, it's like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
So,
I'll be right back.
yeah. So the brain is a really amazing thing that unfortunately modern medicine has not quite figured out yet. We have really discovered that, not just with Derek's situation, but our oldest daughter has cerebral palsy from being born so early. When she was born, they basically told us she would be a vegetable because she had bleeds on both lobes of her brain. And again, I looked at that as a challenge. Like, you told that to the wrong mom. She's an honor student, brilliant, and completely fine. She walks a little funny, but we work on fixing that all the time. That situation taught me to believe in the power of educating yourself, the power of faith, the power of trusting that God's in control. And this situation elevated that. And so we believe that God has put this whole journey in front of us because there's an entire population of people that don't trust in that. And there's an entire population of people that just believe that when a doctor says no, that's the end of the sentence.
Right.
I'm not one of those people. So this treatment follows years of doing conventional physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy that, yes, he has made incredible amounts of progress with, but we keep getting to a stop point, and then the insurance company says, that's enough for now. So then he's denied any more treatment, and we have to kind of do some things here around the house and hope that it at least allows him to keep up, so that when we go back in for a reevaluation, he hasn't lost anything. And we've not once done an evaluation where they've gone in and said it's gotten worse. So I feel like we've done a really good job keeping up and following the cycle. This last cycle, though, which was just around the beginning of summer, I think, is when we stopped this last cycle. And it was basically, we had just kind of hit the wall again with feeling like nothing was really changing. He was still struggling in certain areas, and the treatment that he was receiving wasn't really changing with his needs. And so when it came a time again for them to say, okay, the insurance company is not going to pay for any more, you can go and come back again in 3 months. I didn't feel that coming back in 3 months was really going to be the answer. So we started looking for something else. And we've tried things like acupuncture and chiropractic care, and changing his diet, adding supplements. All of those things have definitely helped in one way or another, but I still felt like we were missing a piece to the puzzle. And by the grace of God, I was having a conversation with someone one day, and they said, have you looked into brain training? I had no idea what they were talking about. I had never heard of it. I have scoured the internet for different things. There was a clinic, I believe it was in Chicago, that did some recovery care for traumatic brain injuries, but it was an ungodly amount of money, which I knew we would never be able to afford. So I had not heard of brain training. So I took the online evaluation through Learning RX, And it is a nationally recognized clinic. We're just grateful. There's one about 35 minutes away from our house.
Jeez.
And Wisconsin is actually one of the larger population of adults that use the clinic. This specific method is really great for kids with autism, ADHD, and learning disorders. So typically in a clinic, that's what you're going to see are a lot of kids who are struggling, and they're just trying to, adapt to their different challenges. So I took the evaluation, and the gentleman called me back the very next day, and he said, I'm going to be honest with you. 3 years out from a stroke, I'm not sure how much we can help you, but let's get him in here and let's do an evaluation and see what we have to work with. I was only looking for that. I wasn't looking for much after that, because in my head, I was thinking the same thing. Like, it's been 3 years. Maybe it's time for you to accept that this is as good as it's going to get. And he's alive, and I should just be grateful for that. But we went and had the evaluation, and the evaluation showed that his IQ is still normal. His logic and reasoning is still normal. His visual spatial skills are very normal. He's got a lot of really great things going for him. Just some of the things that are weaker are what's holding him back. So it is like he is trapped in his own brain. So this method of therapy is just a slightly different approach to your typical occupational therapy and speech. They just do different types of activities to get the brain to respond to holding on to that information. Okay. So they're going to use games, a lot of word association. It's a trained method that we're really hopeful at now. Since going public with this information, we've had a lot of people reach out to us saying, we've done it, it works. Okay. So there are no guarantees, just like there are no guarantees for any other type of therapy or treatment. But I can guarantee you I would regret it if we didn't at least try it.
But it's costly.
It is very costly. And our insurance doesn't cover it. There are insurance that do cover it. Ours just doesn't. Which even good insurance policies don't cover everything. So we have been grateful up to this point. We have not had too many things get denied through our insurance company. So this is just one that we had to fight, and we're not done fighting for that. So that's why we had to reach out and start a fundraiser to get this going for Derek. I didn't want to wait any longer, and I just couldn't pull it together myself.
Maybe we'll have a listener, a little angel that would love to cover the bills for you guys. I know that there are a lot of angels out there, and there are a lot of people with a lot of money. And
Ellen DeGeneres, she's talking to you.
Yeah, Ellen, come on. I really do feel that there is something huge coming your way. I want you guys just to seriously relax and let it go, leave it up to God, because this is your journey and you don't have to worry about a thing. I really honestly seriously, my gut just did it like a funny thing, because it knows that you guys are going to be taken care of. Just like I agree with you. Take care of everybody else.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've said since day one that something beautiful is coming out of all of this, that our journey is so much bigger than just us.
Yeah.
And if out of all of this, somebody else sees our story and says, I thought I was going to give up because of you, it didn't, then I feel like we've accomplished what we've set out to accomplish.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been quite the roller coaster of a journey, but it's ours, and we're not done yet.
I agree. You're not done yet.
No.
You are not done yet. And your love story is not over.
No.
And I love you guys. I love you guys so much. And I'm so grateful that you guys could come on the Nikki Jensen Show and share your story. And
thanks for having us.
And be your authentic, awesome selves.